My name is Blue, and today I decided that as a Spanish person, I really wanted to share how I learned English. So, let me share this with you. Now, you probably know that very unfortunately, the level of English in Spain is very low. It's incredibly and extremely low, unfortunately, and I live in the south of Spain, but it's still so low. I think especially in the south of Spain. And if I say to someone or any of my close friends or people that went with me to high school, how are you doing? They don't know what I'm saying. Even my sister, a few months ago, didn't know. So yes, it is a big problem. I feel like unless you love the language and you have a very strong interest in learning English, you won't. But obviously, as everything in the world, this is an issue that comes from farther away, and it comes from education. Education in Spanish schools regarding languages is very poor, it's very weak. And I can tell you that the English that I talk, that I speak, I did not learn it. I didn't learn it by going to school or even high school. I learned it because I love the language, and I myself personally took those steps naturally of learning the language myself because I really loved it. But obviously, most people don't love the language and with what you teach. But obviously, most people don't love the language, and by going to school, they won't. They will copy words they are seeing on the screen or on the blackboard. They will throw it up on the exam and they'll forget the following day because they do not enjoy it. And also, we're introduced to English when we're like 6 years old, which is good. But other countries, as you probably know, like Norway, even though English is not the main language, since they are babies, as far as I know, they watch cartoons in English, so they're exposed to the language since they're babies. And I certainly think this makes a whole difference. If that was done in Spain, everything will change. And I also feel like if in Spain you want your kid to have a really good English level, and your kid maybe doesn't love the language, well, you want to know if your kid is going to love the language. How, right? You need to take them to a private English school, which obviously is quite expensive. But only those kids that I've met that didn't love English and went to a private expensive English school with native English teachers talk English very well. And once again, everyone that went with me to high school has no idea. And you might think, how is this possible? And I know if you're watching this video, and I know if you've been to Spain, and you've probably experienced these things. Everyone I speak about this that's been to Spain and is not Spanish tells me the same thing. The English level is absolutely horrible. And I completely agree because it is unfortunately once again a fact. So the reason, and this is what the video is going to be mostly about, the reason why I know English and I love it, it's because I always loved English. You know how singers, right? Most singers, I'll say they always loved singing. I see videos of them at like 3 years old or 4 singing, and you could already see that was their path. That's what they loved, and that was what they were good at. I feel like the same thing happened with me in English. Since I was a kid, I loved it. I was really bad at many subjects, such as maths, but English was one of the only ones that I was really good. Like I stand out. And I remember that I wasn't really aware. I was more aware when I was in high school and I didn't really know what to study. I loved the thought of being a teacher, but I still wasn't sure. And I remember my mom was the one that actually suggested, why don't you study a degree to be an English teacher? And then I thought, that sounds so right. That sounds like the right choice to do, the right choice to make, and that's what I did. So I joined English studies and I studied the course, the degree, 5 years, and here I am. But obviously, being slightly better than other people in general at English came from an early age, and once again it was my obsession. As I said at the beginning of the video, I learned English in a very natural form. I still feel like English was made for me. I love English more than Spanish. I think the English language is so elegant, so classy, so beautiful. It's just, to me, magical. And as a kid, there were the typical songs that we listened in English, but we didn't really know. No one really knew what we were singing. I remember that I always had the need to search for the song in the lyrics. First of all, because I couldn't handle the thought of singing something out loud. Not knowing what I was singing. I could be singing, "You're a horrible human, I needed to know that what I was singing wasn't something horrendous, that to begin with. But also, and of course, I really wanted to know the lyrics. And sometimes even now when we listen to an English song, we have no clue what they are singing. Because in songs, pronunciation is not the major point, that's for sure. So I always look at the lyrics and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, this is what they're saying. Now I know what they're saying. Now I can actually sing the song saying the lyrics. And if I didn't know any word, I will translate it. And then I will know also what I was singing. And I feel like this is how I started. And I always liked when I was with my mom shopping, anytime I just had English, I loved it. I remember I used to tell my mom, like, oh my gosh, look, this woman speaking English. And even from a very early age, like 7, 8, I already felt this connection with the language. I already loved it. I already loved it and already knew that it was for me. Now, what I also did was every single TV show I watched, movies, even as a kid, I watched it in English. Now, this was never, believe it or not, this was never homework. At school learning English, it was literally just the blackboard, copying words, shutting up, not speaking, and then once again throwing up in the exam. And that's not how you learn a language, because if a kid already doesn't like the language, you make it look like a task, you make it look like something they have to do. And I always try, when I'm teaching kids, I always try to make them have fun. I always try to play games, and so they see the language as a fun activity to do, even though they might not love the language. But how you teach it makes a massive difference. So myself, this was never once again homework. Unfortunately, I just had the need to every film, every movie, every TV show I watched in English. Obviously, the beginning was atrocious. I didn't get anything. I put it in Spanish. I felt very lost. I didn't understand the plot. Typical things, but it's like somehow as a kid I knew that was normal, and I just loved so much how it sounded that I just had the need to keep listening. It's certainly magical and it makes me so happy. And when I advise people how to learn English, Spanish people, I always say, do not watch anything. Because we use so much, we use so many apps to watch TV shows, TV series, films, movies, and I know it's a bit of a task when you want to unwind, you want to relax. It's a bit of annoying thing having to put in a language you do not connect with and you do not know much. But it's the only way to actually learn it. I know it's very idealized, and delusional to think that just because you copy a few words down, you're going to learn and know the language, but it's unrealistic and it's a lie. That's not the truth. Just because you go to an academy an hour, 2 times a week, and you copy things you're not learning. It's sad, but it's true. It will add value, but you need to expose yourself insanely to actually learn it, which is what I did without realizing as a kid. And I really enjoyed it. And this is my advice when people or family members or friends ask me how. Expose yourself. Every single thing you watch in English is gonna be a bit annoying, but it will work. You know, this is like going to the gym and eating healthy. You know, it might be hard, but you know it's going to work. There's no guarantee that maybe it doesn't work. No, it will work. So with English, it's the same, and with learning any language. If you do the work, you'll see the result. But obviously the work has to be done, which is a tough part for most people. And I also tell them to put their phone in English. Phone, laptop, everything they have, electronics, because we use it all the time. We are already we visually acknowledge WhatsApp emoji or Telegram or YouTube, anything, right? We acknowledge those things. So if you see it in English, first of all, it's the same word, but you're going to learn little things. You're seeing settings, right, instead of ajustes. And when you get a call, just seeing the word incoming call, right, or just any tiny thing, like even emails, just any small thing, it's going to be so easy for you to actually realize, because you're so used to seeing that, oh yes, every single day. So maybe you can get lost a little bit, but certainly I just generally don't think you're going to realize. It's going to be so natural because you see it all the time. But in a way, because there will be times you need to look something else in the phone or download an app, so it will force you to expose yourself in a very brief manner that won't cause you too much damage, right? Or I don't know, it won't be too annoying, and it's a great way to learn. So I always say this: put it in English, the phone, laptop, everything you watch in that language as well. Watch videos in English. It could be anyone, a YouTuber, a blogger. Just watch videos of people that do these things in English. Super important. And also a problem is I feel like people want to do it all. So I'll say these things, yeah, when they ask me, and they say, oh, typical thing, I don't have time, or no, I want to join an academy and then put everything in English, put their phone in English and watch all the movies in English. And they want to do so much that they get overwhelmed and they don't start. This is a problem as well, because they really want to get immersed in the language and learn it. And they feel like unless they do all these aspects, all the things they're supposed to do, because they can't do all of that because it's so much at the same time, they just go back to not doing anything, because they feel if they just put the phone in English, that's not going to help. But that's far from the truth. Any small step you make, you might think it doesn't do anything, but when you look back 2-3 weeks behind, you'll be like, wow, I actually feel a bit more familiar, at least, with the language. So those little steps do make a difference. You don't have to just jump to the extreme and know everything, because it's not realistic either. And those steps really make a difference. And I think that is what I'll say, or how I learned it. But also when people ask me a lot, how can I learn it? How can I want to be good at English. I want to just maybe defend myself, being able to have a brief conversation with someone. I think these are the things that I'll say. There's just no easy path. There's no magic pill. I feel like in a way I was lucky, but I don't want to call it luck, because I feel like we're all good at things. Like maybe you're watching this video, maybe you're really good, like you work in construction and you're super good at building gorgeous houses and you make the best structure. And or maybe you love painting and you can draw very well. I can't draw at all, so I don't want to call it like it's more of a natural talent. And before, I will never say this, but I've realized that for something I'm good at in life, why do I have to say I'm bad? Like the amount of times that I say I'm bad or I'm not good at English because of be humble, it's not real. That's all I can say. Just if you're good at something, say it. Because to be good at that, even though it might be natural, you also had to work. If you didn't work, that would just be there apart. So I want to end this video by saying that you shouldn't be ashamed to say you're good at something when you're good at that. We're taught so much that you need to be humble, you don't believe you're too cool. It's not real. It's not real because that's not going to help you to get anywhere in life. If the thing that you're good at, you cannot even acknowledge that you're good at. You're even programming your mind for failure. But that's a topic for another video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video made you relaxed you a little bit from your day if it was stressful. And also now you know a bit more about me and you know a bit more about Spain and the educational system and my advice. If anyone really, not just Spanish people, if anyone wants to learn English, this is what I will say. Those will be my advices. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.